All right, good to be here. We'll have some fun here. They brought me on, I think, because I started Sourcegraph in 2013, and it's 2025. So I believe I've made all of the mistakes and have learned from that. So hopefully you all don't need to do that. So again, my name is Quinn Slack. I'm CEO and co-founder at Sourcegraph. Yeah, as Joe said, there's a lot of stuff that people tell you that's just not true, and especially now, given that AI is changing so much. So I'm going to walk through how this has hit me personally as a founder and how I've worked through it. A lot of smart people say shit, it's not true. How do you deal with that? How do you get your team to go along with that? I'm going to share a bunch of stuff that I have told our team, slides that we've used, and if you want to come up and talk about this afterwards, would absolutely love to. Everything is changing. This is something we tell the team all the time. Actually, starting like maybe 9 months ago. Before that, everything was still changing, and we were trying to shield the team from change. The biggest complaint people had at Sourcegraph was everything is constantly changing, the roadmap, and so on. And finally, we just embraced it. And you know what? It is true, and it's felt really good to just embrace it. And it's not just in Sourcegraph that everything is changing. It's happening to everyone. All of you are feeling it. Our customers are feeling it. Every single person that we talk to at our customers, they don't know if they're going to have the same job or a job a year from now. And nobody has a moat. It is easier than ever before to get into a new market or to build a new feature. So it's absolutely crazy. And just embracing the truth, that has been the single most valuable thing that I've been able to do. There's some lessons I want to walk through, and these have all been learned in blood, basically. Every single one of these lessons has caused me to waste months of my life, to have to fire 3-5 people or have 3 or 5 people quit, and have been really painful. And I want to give a little background on Sourcegraph because it's relevant to what I'm going to be talking about. We started Sourcegraph to go and automate software development. This was before AI was good enough, so we started with code search, like a Google for all of your enterprise code. And then when AI started to get good, we made this thing Cody that was like the Copilot++, great for enterprises. And so we've been pretty enterprise focused. We are in the absolute middle of the storm with AI and coding agents. About 67 days ago, we came out with something called AMP that's basically us going full Joker, full radical, saying let's break all the fucking rules, let's just build the very best product, expensive and all that. And it feels pretty good after 13 years to have something that's growing 50% week over week and really winning in the market. So everything that I'm going to share now is what's gotten me to bring Sourcegraph from this very enterprise company that has a ton of amazing customers, like the big banks and 8 of the top 10 tech companies and a ton of users, to something that is growing very fast as well and is relevant after this massive change. So first one, just want to go a little bit more in this everything is changing because this is the most useful phrase that I've ever found in my whole life. Everything is indeed changing. And for our market, one way I share this with the team is just, you look at what's happened in AI coding. Copilot came out. Remember when they were invincible? Remember when Satya was like, oh, we made Google dance? I mean, that's such a joke now. And then we came out with Cody. And Cody, it was the RAG chat. Wow, we can actually write whole files. That was amazing. And then we got leapfrogged by Cursor and Windsurf. And this was like last October. And then they got leapfrogged. Claude Code, we came out with AMP. And now, I can say it in SF. I was just in Austin, and they were like, not quite yet. But here in SF, I think we all know that Cursor and Windsurf are already the previous generation. Everything is changing so fast. It's absolutely insane. So, how do we deal with this as a team? How do we deal with that pace of change? I run the team through stuff like this, and this all makes sense intellectually, but I got a problem. And it's a problem that some of you have, some of you will have, which is, maybe the devs are going to get it, but you got a lot of enterprise salespeople that have been selling in a great way, the old way, for a long time. And how do you get them to change when their paychecks depend on it? It's tough. So, this didn't quite work. And I walked the team through something that's just, looking at all the assumptions that we've had. All this advice you get about sales, it's all based on a bunch of assumptions that have been totally overturned. So, in the glory days of SaaS, if you got a customer, you'd keep them for 5 years. The gross margins were really good. You didn't have LLM inference that was really expensive. You could basically build a product like, I don't want to talk ill of any customers. I love all the customers. But, I think we all know that there's some products that were built 15 years ago and haven't really changed that much, and they're still kind of milking it out there. That used to be possible. None of these things hold anymore. And any advice that you hear about sales is based on these assumptions, and none of them hold anymore. So you should pretty much discount all of that. Now the cycle is like 5 months. I mean, we felt that firsthand being leapfrogged, and now Cursor is feeling that firsthand being leapfrogged. The gross margins are tiny. So think about this. If you are doing 100 million ARR in some AI thing where your gross margins are 20%, that's 20 million. That doesn't pay for a lot of stuff, actually. So everything is overturned. Keep that in mind when hearing advice from advisors, from people that have been really successful VPs of sales and VCs and so on, because instead, I think you should be taking advice from the teams that are adding 100 million ARR between the times they take showers, because there are people like that exist. They probably don't shower every day, but it's still pretty impressive. And knowing that's possible, you got to chase that. This is a message I gave the team: adapt or die. Like a year ago, it would be like the weakest slide ever, and now it's just like full radical. And if you're not talking like this with your team, then you're babying them. All right, second thing is, and this is a little bit controversial for Heavybit, build for customers who get it. So who's here heard of this term enterprise ready? Yeah, enterprise ready. All right, I love enterprise ready. It was really helpful for us. It is true that enterprises are where all the money is for software. If you got some software business, it's either going to die or you're going to make money selling, $5 million to JP Morgan. And that is totally right. However, I believe enterprise ready needs to change. And this is another area where you got to overturn everything you've thought. So enterprise ready is all that stuff here on the left. And all of this stuff made sense until literally like December. For AI specifically, you got to have that model drop down with like 17 models because everyone wants that. The AI councils love that. You got to deploy self-hosted. Oh, we want Bedrock or whatever. You got to build for like the dumbest users ever. And I'm sorry, that statement pisses a lot of people off, but it's true. Like they don't want to learn, and there's a lot of people that are not as smart as other devs. Everyone loved it. I mean, this like manna falling from heaven when you could get Code AI for $20 a month and it was all you can eat. Like, what an amazing time. All this stuff, it does not matter anymore because every single enterprise in the last 6 or 9 months said they don't give a fuck about all that stuff. What they care more about than anything else in the world is the very best coding agent. And if you're not giving them that, then you're falling behind. And so whatever this means for your product, figure that out. And I'm not saying there's no companies that want that old stuff on the left. I'm just saying they're probably going to die in like 3 years anyway, and your sales cycle will not be complete before that. So I would not recommend that. What you'll see, though, that all sounds good, is you're talking to 3 companies, and these are real. I had to anonymize them a little bit, but these are real companies that we've been talking to, and all of these are names where you'd be like, whoa, I would kill to have these as customers. And it's hard when you have a sales rep or a team member or a dev who knows people and is building stuff, and this company one where, oh, we've got this aggressive mandate to go get AI, and yet they haven't even accepted Sonnet 3.5, which is crazy, and they're totally out of tune. But, you got to pull people away from working on that. The middle one, this is a really great company, and they have the ability, it's a very large bank, to immediately try any AI tool. And so, if you're not getting your tool in immediately and being able to, have them try it out, then you're falling behind. That should be your expectation. And what you really want to find is the company 3, where some guy sold his board on this thing like, hey, we can save, $120 million over the next year, and he has no idea how the hell to realize that. And so it's like literally an existential thing for his career and for the company. And there are a lot of people in that position like company 3. And if you're building, you want to be building for them. So you got to sniff it out. And if you ever feel like a company is moving slow, anything related to AI that you're selling, if it's moving slow, then that's a huge problem because nothing with AI moves slow. And it probably means that, they're not interested at all. So that's very different because it used to be a 9-month sales cycle. Oh, that's just what you got to do to get these banks. Not true anymore. What you'll hear sometimes too is, well, like we can't just be selling to the early adopters because that's what everyone else is selling to. We got to, build some stuff for the bigger market. Hey, Quinn, you can't just sell to other devs that are like you and all that. And this is hilarious because what they're literally saying is, let's go sell to the laggards. but like, what if the laggards, would actually buy right now? And that's not true. Literally, they're laggards because they don't buy shit right now. So I've used this slide and this image a lot with advisors, investors, team members, and I think once they see it, it kind of clicks. One difference is it used to be that this tech cycle would take like 5 to 10 years. Now it takes like 6 months. So what that means is, actually, if you're building for the innovators and the early adopters, that's what everyone is going to be doing in like 6 months. I mean, I think we've all seen how fast fully agentic coding tools have taken over. Like 2 months ago, that was like the crazy thing to do, and everyone had, let's accept every single file edit. Now everyone is just like letting it go. So these things move so fast, and you're never going to get on to even building for the laggards. They're either going to be out of the job market, or they're going to have changed their tune by the time you'd get to them. Another thing is, especially in this absolutely crazy time where things are moving faster than ever, the only thing that matters is fast growth. And if you're not showing fast growth, then even more than ever before, you should take that as a signal that what you're doing is not clicking, because now everyone is willing to spend more money, is willing to adopt things faster, is willing to change their workflows that they haven't changed for like 10 years, like in like 2 days. Everything is changing so fast. So if you're not feeling that market pull, then my advice is get on to the next thing. This whole just stick with it. I'm the guy who spent, we've now year 12, year 13 at Sourcegraph. I wish I'd learned this earlier, but certainly you got to do this now. And there's going to be a lot of people that try to distract you from fast growth. In particular, there's going to be a lot of people that make really smart arguments of, these people in the middle that are like, well, now that we've got the early win, let's put in some structure, let's get a roadmap, let's get the org chart, let's get managers and all that. And some of that's probably good, but there's so much of that if that means you move just a little bit more slowly, if that means that you do not have a team that is up every single night late and on weekends getting ready for the new model release or something like that, literally nothing else matters. It doesn't matter that you have a good manager in place, because it's all going to be irrelevant. So, you want to be, I think actually either side will win. I think you're all the smart side. I think that's, of course, what everyone thinks they are. Anything that takes you away from that growth is fatal. And in the past, you could kind of, scale and the cycles are moving more slowly. You could take your eye off the ball as a CEO and co-founder for a little bit, and the market wasn't moving as fast, but you just cannot do that anymore. So, for example, when we build AMP, we push to main, no code review. We've had one synchronous meeting in the entire history of AMP. We're breaking all the rules. We have no issue tracker whatsoever. And customers say that, hey, the product is very good. And we used to do all those things at Sourcegraph. We're not doing those things anymore, even on those other teams. So just breaking all the rules from all the smart people. And by the way, when they tell you these things, it's not going to sound dumb, because they're smart people and they're coming from a good place. But you got to know that everything has changed. You got to throw away all that old knowledge. And in one specific thing, you're going to hear a lot of people say you should stop coding, and you got to ignore those haters and losers, and you got to keep coding. Yes? Who here has been told that they should stop coding and work on the more important things in their role? Anyone? All right. I see a handful of people. I think you're going to be getting that more and more. Maybe there was a shred of good advice there like 5 years ago, but now CEOs and founders, really anyone at a company, can have way more leverage from coding. I was just talking to a customer yesterday who's got about 500 employees, and it's a really cool company. Company's been around for 20 years. This guy's not written a lick of code in 15 years, but he went to Waterloo and he's really smart. And in the last week, he started coding again using AMP, which is he's not writing all the code himself. Now he's the #1 committer at his company, and that's changing. I hear a lot more people in that kind of role starting to code a lot more. I think that's going to give a lot of us air cover. But the reality is you can have way more leverage now than ever before by coding. And if you as a CEO and co-founder are in the customer meetings, you're talking to the customers, you're meeting with users, and you can immediately translate that to something in the product, and you can lead by example, there's no substitute for that. So ignore anyone who says that. Also, with respect to working nights and weekends and grinding, if there's ever been a time to do it, it's now. I think in the last 5 years, there was a lot of wisdom around, well, let's not burn out. We got to reserve capacity, all that. Look, everything is changing so fast. Now is the time to go, go, go. And you should absolutely be doing that. That is not advice that people gave much in the last 5 years. I think a lot of CEOs and founders were pretty sheepish. I know I certainly was about just saying this is what's needed to win, but it's absolutely true. There's a lot of people who will opt out of that, but good riddance. And for me, I'm so excited because there's so much crazy stuff going on with coding. It's changing faster than ever before. So, just some of the things that I'm excited about coding and, some of these ideas around how people will actually, see more widely that 90% of code is being written by AI, that we're not going to have a monopoly in models anymore, that, these one-person companies are not just going to be like Peter Levels, who's awesome, like tweeting. It's going to be like more mainstream. And there's so much exciting stuff that is happening out there. So that is why I'm going to be coding. Overall, everything, all the advice that people give you, it's all well-intentioned. There's no one evil here. That's, maybe in other industries, I don't know, but not in tech. It's all just based on some old stuff that's not true anymore. And you got to shed it. You got to think from first principles. You got to have that courage. And every single other founder and CEO is going through this. So that's why events like this are so helpful. And if you email or chat with any other founder, even like at a company that's much bigger, they're going to be going through the same exact things. In many cases, they're going to envy you because you don't have like a 1,000-person team to go and change the direction of. So that's one of the amazing things about SF, Silicon Valley. We're all going through this together as founders and CEOs, and reach out. All right, keep coding, and thank you all.